In the third section of the lecture, now we will talk about the approach to the patient, how we should approach to the patient who comes in the OPD with the history of diarrhea, whether we need to hospitalize the patient or we should take the patient as the outpatient. So all that is important, and the first step in any evaluation or approach to the patient is the proper history taking is important, and then physical exam. Then we will go over the diagnostic approach. What are the different tests we should do to diagnose the causative agent or the cause of the diarrhea. Then we will talk about also some post-diarrheal complications or complications that can occur after the diarrhea. So history takings, after going through all the information we went over in the first two sections, now it's not very hard to know what are the different questions we should ask the patient with the history of diarrhea, and what are different questions we should ask that can lead us to the cause of the diarrhea. So first, if there is any diarrhea is naturally present, but if there is any nausea or vomiting, to ask them about the nausea or vomiting. If all these are present, then the treatment can be symptomatic. If the vomiting is present, we should treat the vomiting by antiemetics. If diarrhea, then anti-diarrheal drugs, all that. So symptomatic therapy, and then oral rehydration. Oral rehydration, if the person can hold the fluid. If the person has vomiting or they cannot hold the fluid, then IV infusions are required. Patient should be hospitalized for the infusion. After that, if they assess the patient for the duration of the illness and severity of the illness, it's very important. Duration, if it's more than 1 day, and if the severity, how bad is the illness. If the duration is not more than 1 day, or if the symptoms are not very serious, then two things can happen. Either the condition resolve with the symptomatic therapy, or the person will continue the illness and it will prolong. If yes, then again we should obtain the history. We should ask the duration, presence of the fever or not, appearance of the stool, frequency of bowel movements, abdominal pain, tenesmus, vomiting, common source, antibiotic use, travel history. All that should be asked to get the proper history of the patient. Obtain stool, then we should go for stool examination for the white blood cell, and if more than 10 days for parasites. Non-inflammatory, we know these things already, no white blood cells, continue symptomatic therapy. Inflammatory, which is for the culture for Shigella, Salmonella, Clostridium jejuni, and Clostridium difficile, and consider antimicrobial therapy. Examine stool for parasite. In case if it's more than 10 days, then we should give the anti-parasitic therapy. So these are few basic steps. Ask the history, more than 1 day, go for the treatment, go for the stool examination if it's inflammatory, non-inflammatory. If it's more than 10 days, we should look for the parasites also. Then the physical examination. Examination for the dehydration. Diarrhea and vomiting is very commonly associated with dehydration, and we should look for the signs of dehydration if the person is dehydrated or not. Severity of diarrheal illness, need for rapid therapy. Mild dehydration signs which are present, we have mouth is dry and patient feel thirsty. So thirst and dry mouth, decreased axillary sweat, decreased urine output, and the slight weight loss. All these are the features of mild dehydration. Then little moderate dehydration, there is orthostatic fall in blood pressure. With the change in the position, there is fall of blood pressure. Skin tenting, the skin become very loose, skin tenting, if you elevate it becomes very loose and loss of elasticity. Sunken eyes are sunken down. Infants, there is fontanelle are sunk. In children, diarrhea is common, and very important significant sign is the sunk fontanelle present, so that indicates the child is dehydrated. In severe dehydration, patient is very lethargic, no energy, obtundation, feeble pulse. Pulse is very weak and feeble and hard to palpate. Hypotension and shock is present, blood pressure is very low, and patient can even go into shock. Diagnostic approach, we have, it helps us to distinguish between inflammatory and non-inflammatory state. These include, we can use the history to reach some conclusion also. Then epidemiological features used, defining specific etiology and therapeutic intervention. So diagnostic approach is very important. So we should know the causative agent. So we should treat the person with specific therapy, and to reach the specific therapy and treatment so person can get better soon. Examination of stool samples in case of diarrhea is very important to reach the diagnosis. Supplement narrative history. Grossly bloody or mucoid stool suggests inflammatory process. If white blood cells are present, if the blood is present, it indicates that it is due to inflammatory process. Test for fecal leukocytes or white blood cells suggest inflammatory disease in patients with diarrhea. Predictive value of test is debated for the leukocytes. Another diagnostic approach is now test for lactoferrin, which we mentioned already. I talked about it, that inflammatory type of diarrhea is associated with increased lactoferrin. Marker of fecal leukocytes, more sensitive, available in latex agglutination format and enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay format. So it's more sensitive as compared to just leukocytes. It's available in latex agglutination format and also in immunosorbent assay format. Post-diarrheal complications, which are common, we have usually chronic complication may follow resolution of acute diarrheal episode. The complications are chronic diarrhea, lactase deficiency, small bowel bacterial overgrowth, malabsorption syndrome, which can be topical, and celiac sprue. Occur in 1% of travelers with acute diarrhea, chronic diarrhea usually, and small bowel bacterial overgrowth, with the protozoa account for 1/3 of the cases. Then another complication is initial presentation or exacerbation of inflammatory bowel disease, may be precipitated by traveler's diarrhea. Irritable bowel syndrome occur in 10% of travelers with traveler diarrhea. Reactive arthritis, particularly likely after infection with invasive organisms Shigella, Salmonella, Campylobacter Yersinia. Then hemolytic uremic syndrome is another complication of diarrhea. Follow infection with Shiga toxin producing bacteria, which is Shigella dysentery type 1 and enteric hemorrhagic E. coli. These two can cause hemolytic uremic syndrome. Then we have Guillain-Barré syndrome or Guillain-Barré syndrome, particularly after Campylobacter infection. So all these are different complications that can be present after the diarrhea. So that was all about section 3. Thank you for watching sqadia.com.